Good afternoon. Welcome back to Cool Your Heels with Lillian Caldwell on AMFM247.com and Passionate World Radio Network, the world in your hands. And today I have several people who are from the Goodness Tour, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and then we will go on with the interview. So Camille, please start it off.
Okay, I am here with Ben Suarez and Jeremiah Alexis of the Goodness Tour, two of the three members of the band.
Terrific. So could you please tell everybody what the Goodness Tour is all about?
Sure. So we are a three-headed monster, as we like to call ourselves. My background is in film and media and journalism. Ben, who is also on the line, he is an amazing painter and accomplished, specifically in the muralist world. He's done murals all over the world and done painting and art projects, therapy combined all over the world as well. And then we have our third member who isn't on the call with us, Luke Reynaud, who is an amazing singer, a songwriter, also an activist. And he was kind of the impetus for the Goodness Tour. Luke was when he decided he wanted to do something kind of in memorial of a band member that had just recently passed on, Felipe Cañete. So, once that started, the three of us kind of came together and we formed this organization. Now it's a not-for-profit. And our goal is to bring music and art to places where people are facing extreme disadvantages. So we started off bringing music and art to the homeless all along the West Coast, down from Seattle to San Diego. And we did that for about 2 years. And it was an incredible experience, but then it kind of opened us up to other avenues, including, battered women homes and children that were in detention halls and kids in hospitals, anywhere where people cannot physically leave their surroundings to receive what we've come to understand as the healing power of music and art. We bring it to them. And so that's pretty much a summation of what we do of the Goodness Tour.
I think that's a pretty neat thing. In fact, if you can arrange it, I think the people who are coming up from El Salvador, all those 10,000 people who have no place to go, but they've been driven from the homeland because of war and because of what's going on there, they could probably use some of your goodness.
I agree. I mean, we've been around for about 3 years now, and we would love to be all over the world at all times. But the reality is that we're a fledgling organization. We just got our not-for-profit status. And so right now we're just doing what we can basically within our own organization, trying to raise money, trying to raise awareness, which is why we're here today to talk on your radio show. And thank you for having us, by the way.
Well, I got to tell you,
we'd love to be down there.
I was intrigued.
Yes.
I was very much intrigued because something like this has never been attempted before, number one. And number two, people have a tendency to look at such things and then say, oh, by the grace of God, that should happen to me. But it hasn't, so I guess I ought to count my blessings. But I think your organization means more. To me, it's almost a conduit for spiritualism as well, to bring hope.
Agreed.
And to inspire people or to motivate people to look within and find their strength from their adversity.
Agreed. And Ben can actually speak about this very well because, one of the great additions on the Goodness Tour was Ben was coming along with us, and doing what he does. But he's also had a lot of experience in going in very, very intense places like the Congo and bringing art specifically to kids who were child soldiers. And Ben, you should talk a little bit about your experience with that and why this is such a powerful force of good.
Yeah, well, thank you once again for having us. And what I found is that in my own life, for which we all have our own stories, that music and art, and especially art, is my form of intelligence to create a safe and secure platform for positive outlets and expression and to find our voice and feel empowered and basically be alchemists of our own existence. So no longer do we have to feel victims of our circumstances, but transform it into a voice and compassion, empathy, and the ability to hold space for others that are also going through tough times. And so when I found myself just so lit up and so full of love, standing in front of a classroom in northern Uganda with 200 former child soldiers and women that had escaped slavery, it was one of the best days of my life when I got to watch them hold a paintbrush for the very first time ever, and the joy and their ability to start dreaming again and to return to their childhood innocence, and the beauty of being able to share whatever form of intelligence we all have opens the door for each person to feel empowered and an important element in this superorganism. And so when there's a state of severe adversity like war, or we've been to refugee camps as well, making music videos and murals, that we feel that it's really all about the community, and it's about the individual within the community as well, and that as we focus within ourselves and it expands, then the community expands, and therefore it gets spread further around the world. And what's really special about that is that we don't have the tendency and would prefer not to show up with any kind of colonialistic kind of perspective or like imposing what we believe is best on anybody else. It's more about opening up a platform for everybody to find the creativity, which is always within them. But when you're faced with extreme adversity, you find that it's often oppressed but never extinguished. And when we just bring the materials and the energy, then we find that people are reignited and start to express themselves and find that beauty of humanity again. And that's really good for all of us. So it's a symbiotic relationship that we like to exchange and share with people.
I think what it is that, and it might be the wrong way to phrase it, but you give them permission to breathe, that it's okay, that they're really part of
That's
a group.
Beautifully said.
Oh, thanks. Because that's what, kind of sort of flooded into me while you were talking. And I really think that when people are in bad situations, they forget to really breathe in and to really breathe out. I'm a caregiver for my husband who has Alzheimer's, and he's getting progressively worse. And you almost have to remember to give yourself permission to still be a part of all humanity, and that as bad as it gets, there's a greater good flowing around you that you need to tap into.
Absolutely.
So it's
and
more
whether
like
you're speaking with the terminology of science or the terminology of spirituality, it's been demonstrated over and over again throughout history, whereas there's studies that if a mural is painted in a bad neighborhood, that there's been documented 30% less violence in that neighborhood within a year just for one mural painting. Or somebody that has Alzheimer's or different memory losses, you play them a song and then they're reunited with their childhood and their memories and their loved ones through that creativity. So that breath that you speak of is so well and beautifully stated, because it is like a permission that we give ourselves. And
we need to do that. I mean, his one connection is classical music. And if he can get to a concert, he'll go. So I play classical music all day long because it brings him great joy. And it also makes him feel that he's still human, because we have a tendency to dehumanize people as they are either different with a disability or when they get sick.
Definitely true. I agree. I mean, when we first started, we, like I mentioned, we had mainly targeted the homeless because one of our great friends, Joseph Jacks, has an organization called Harmonic Humanity. And so he was very instrumental in the first couple of Goodness Tours where we directly went to the homeless. And he has a beautiful program, actually. You should look it up, Harmonic Humanity. .com, give a plug to our friend Joseph. But essentially, we realize that, there's so many people who are stuck. And sometimes they're physically stuck, like in a physical place. Sometimes they're mentally stuck. And so we try to find the places where the most people who are stuck are and go to them. And that's why it was actually a great suggestion that you mentioned, going to the Honduran and the Ecuadorian immigrants that are coming to our Nicaraguan immigrants that are coming to the border right now. I would like to highlight one of the things that we did recently to speak on that, which was to go to Puerto Rico, and that's actually currently where we are headed next in November. And that was a beautiful experience for us to go there because it was the first time we had kind of stepped out of not really the first time actually. Luke and Ben had went to near the Syrian border and worked at a refugee camp there. So that was the first time we ever had stepped out of the United States proper, and went to something that was very different, which was a refugee camp. Puerto Rico, though, was the first time that we ever stepped into a disaster zone. It was the first time that we had ever stepped outside of the normal way that a country or a civilization runs, and went to basically what was I don't want to say a third world, country because it's not really a totally accurate description, but essentially we went to a Puerto Rico that was stripped of many of the things that it was used to. And I'm Puerto Rican myself. So going there, I'd gone there many times over the years, and, no lights, no street lights, no warm anything. And so, everything was, powered by generators and whatever people could figure out a way to, rig up electricity in some form of fashion. And it was the first time we stepped into a disaster zone like that. And many of not many, but a few, for me, it's particularly influential friends actually questioned us going there and questioned the value that we had to go there, which, is actually, I understand, because, when you go into a disaster zone, there's a lot of supplies trying to get to people. And if you are going in that disaster zone and taking away from those supplies, you are actually hurting the cause you're trying to help. And I get that. And so we had to really analyze our mission, and we had to, really question ourselves. And we actually did go there with quite a few, filters for water and batteries and all these things that we thought we needed to qualify our visit there. But it turned out that our physical presence and what we bring with the Goodness Store was so beneficial to people in a way that was completely unquantifiable. Like, we couldn't measure it per se, but we saw what it did, and we heard many stories coming back to us from people who had received, food and shelter and all these things from FEMA and all these other, organizations that were there to do that. But no one was doing what we were doing. And so that completely erased any doubt out of our mind about the effectiveness of what we bring, and in particular the effectiveness of targeted therapeutic art and music, because it's one thing to go somewhere and just play some music, but I think, if people go and see what, our music is, the Lovingtons, for instance, Luke and the Lovingtons, who Luke is not here with us right now, and then if people want to actually see what Ben's paintings are of, it's not just music and art. It's targeted music and art that has emotion and love and intentionality at its core. And that's key. If anyone were to try to replicate what we did and not have that, then it would be a huge missing ingredient.
Well, I think that
Ben,
art.
you want to speak on that? Oh, good.
And music.
Good, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to add, I think that art and music allows people to step into another reality. Mm-hmm. It's not that they're abandoning that which they're a part of, but I think it gives them the opportunity to escape from it for a while.
That's right.
And I think that everybody needs breathing space to go into a place where they feel safe and they feel that people care, and it gives them an opportunity to reconnect with themselves.
That's right. Exactly right. And, that's what we saw a lot. We saw a lot of people connecting with themselves in a way, and they told us this. It wasn't something that you can actually see. You can witness people coming alive, but for them to actually say to us, this was an experience that I desperately needed and didn't know I needed. Didn't know I needed to, paint a mural. I didn't know I needed to sing a song. I didn't know I needed to use my hands in an artistic way and to completely escape in that way. People's minds when they're in a disaster, they're going right to survival. It's like, I need food, I need water, I need shelter. Okay. Those are the three things that immediately you find. And so we came to understand that this is something that is needed, and we really look forward to broadening that approach and figuring out ways that we can be in other places where there is disaster, but also not in a way where it's like directly after, I think, as well. Like if you go directly after disaster, you really do need those survival things. We timed our trip so that we were kind of like about a month and a half after the hurricanes hit. So we knew going there, we theorized actually, because we didn't know going there, that it would be a good time to go because people weren't as desperate for those principal things, but they would be lacking, art, even just culture, because there's no electricity, so they can't even go to the movie theater, even simple, movie theater, or they, watching cable news or watching TVs, just those simple things, much less like going to plays or going to, see a live performance of music or, and then there's a lot of times people don't have a way to interact with live painting, which is what Ben brings in such an amazing, dramatic way.
And what was really amazing that I found also being here, and I'm in Puerto Rico right now, is that after being here for a little while, we came in contact with a theater group, and this theater group had opened their doors the very day after the hurricane hit, with candles, offering food and a place for people to engage in improvisational theatrical performances, whether they'd ever acted before or not. And the stories that they shared of people being able to reenact and to express immediately after what they experienced was heartwarming, heart-wrenching, so powerful. And the creativity serves as a lifeline. So when you can get stuck in this mental labyrinth and not know how to get out of it, the creativity is that breath that you're speaking of. And when we first arrived, we literally had one phone number of somebody that was fortunate enough to actually still have phone service, when a lot of people, including, family members of people, like Jeremiah's lady, for example, her family, they didn't know if they were okay. And so when we first arrived, we rented a car and drove around the entire island in a day, the circumference of the island through darkness, just to see where we were and to ground ourselves and prepare. And that night on the west side of the island, we just put it out there, speaking to somebody in the darkness that was walking around with styrofoam boxes of food to hand out to people, and asked, where can music and art be the most of service? 2 minutes later, there was this representative of 5 districts of the West Coast that showed up in the darkness to the driver's side of the rental car and said, oh my gosh, you guys do this? I've been asking the heavens to please send me somebody that can help reignite the hope and the power and the love of the culture, and let's do this. And we worked with over 500 children in the mountains, or in Spanish you say in el campo, in the countryside, in schools that didn't have any lights, and some didn't have water. And it was so powerful, the transformation that was happening right before our eyes. And what we love is there's so many amazing, good-hearted organizations out there in the world that focus on the physical needs of people facing adversity. And there could be a lot more programs that are offering psychosocial support because, for example, somebody that's lived through war, they might be physically taken care of, but the PTSD of the trauma causes them to relive that experience over and over again every day. And so they're not really living. But when they have an opportunity to express outwardly in a positive form what it is that they're feeling, then it transforms it. And so after painting murals and creating a song here in Puerto Rico with over 100 people here from Puerto Rico of all walks of life, and a Puerto Rican recording studio, one of the biggest on the island, volunteering their time, and the music and the lyrics, everything written and sung by the Puerto Ricans, that it's so beautiful that I had the honor to show it to the Department of Tourism today. And I also got to show it this morning to the First Lady of Puerto Rico. And there was so much connection and love and appreciation for this form of expression created by the people for the people. And it was an honor for us to hold space for it to happen and to help produce this experience. And so now what we're doing is we're bringing 18 international artists, musicians, dancers, art museum directors, and filmmakers to the island to do an intercultural dialogue, working with the Museum of the Americas, the Department of Tourism, with the School of Fine Arts and Design at Puerto Rico, and the president of La Perla, the community that was actually came from the people that were enslaved or servants that were forced to live outside of the fort walls hundreds of years ago. And we're going to be doing art exhibitions, concerts for the public, interactive murals, art therapy and music therapy activities in the hospital with kids with cancer and with women that have endured some very severe hardships. And so we want to continue, and we are continuing to magnify this larger and larger scale and invite the entire public to come and to co-create with us together. And it's a really exciting time with all kinds of amazing organizations, paint companies, news that want to share the beautiful resilience of this amazing culture. And I've worked in war zones and refugee camps and catastrophe zones for the last 14 years. And Puerto Rico, we had the honor to witness a culture that was able to come together, and without the technology to even call anybody, they got out on the street and met their neighbors for the first time and were helping share and take the trees off of each other's roofs while children were using their imagination again and playing in the streets. And so this place has really, really touched us, and we don't like to just show up like parachuting in and disappear. It's really important to create a sustainability, and that's what we're doing. And that's why in December I'm returning to the Congo to work in an orphanage with children from war, because I've been there in the past, and we're continuing the goodness tour back to Africa. And so wherever we go, and whoever you are, if you want to hold space and to create with people, it is such a healing gift, and it's good for us and everybody around us. So just wanted to share that, and thank you.
Not a problem. It occurs to me, too, that when you're finished with your various projects, you may want to think about how to approach the immigration problem into the United States in such a way that people don't feel threatened, and work with the people who are trying to come into the United States with their culture, with their dance, with their music, with their art, because I really feel that because the present political situation focuses on the negative of these people instead of the positive, people really are not understanding that these people are just like us. They wear the same clothes. They speak the same way we do. They have kids who are being taken from them. I mean, I just feel that there needs to be something that can be addressed to them as well.
Absolutely. And the positive expression of it, like you're emphasizing. I was painting a mural in Washington State with kids with the YMCA homeless and teen shelter. And it turned out to be the largest painting in the state of Washington. And the emphasis was on immigration. And what we ended up doing is, instead of protesting with a negative energy, instead we wanted to look at it in a positive way. So instead of creating more segregation, we wanted to bring people together. So what we did is we actually did a lot of research and found these really, really beautiful, powerful, and influential first-generation immigrants that have really touched our culture. And then painted a composition weaving in all these different first-generation immigrants that have transformed the United States, while simultaneously painting references honoring the natives that were there before immigration. And so what was really special about it was that people from all sides of the spectrum could see that this is a positive way to look and remind us that the majority have actually immigrated through our, family heritage at one point or another, and that we should not forget our empathy and compassion.
Yes, I agree with you. And I think that what you did in Washington would probably be a great thing to do in Texas, all the border states, because somewhere along the line, people have forgotten that wars happen. And the people who are trying to get away from them are not the evil, cruel, nasty folks running around with hatchets, guns, and knives to strike them down. And I really feel that this culture that is coming in from, Mexico and Central America has a culture that really needs to be brought out and to demonstrate to other people who are living in the United States that there's room for everybody.
There's so much for us all to learn from one another. And I had the honor to travel for 3 years from 2007 to 2010 with my little sister from Canada down to Peru by land and sea. And I got to paint murals in the majority of the Latin American countries, nearly all of them actually. And the culture, I found that it was such a reminder of how well and how much love they have to take care of the elderly, for example,
yes.
in their culture and in their family. And that's something that I think, the United States could really be reminded of.
Yes, I think they do. I think instead of this talk of hate and this talk of repulsing them and keep out the hardened criminals, the hardened criminals are already here. They don't.
Yeah.
We don't.
not
that many are crossing the border. The gangs have been here for a long time. And I would really like to see maybe what's the right word? I can't think of the word. Well, another group, kind of like a group in training, if you want to put it that way, the Goodness Tour, where they can also do some of this work while you're concentrating and doing your work, in the Congo and at Puerto Rico, because I really think this is a hot spot that needs to be diffused.
I agree. I mean, essentially, what we've come to realize is that we live in a country that has always been fueled by immigrants.
Yes,
and,
absolutely, absolutely.
The people who are protesting the loudest, you could trace their genealogy back to immigration even 2 generations ago. So, to me, it's all just kind of a smoke screen, and it's unfortunately, it's a little bit of a racist smokescreen.
It's racist.
A lot of people are afraid of brown people coming into this country and changing it for good, and that's already happening, and that's just reality. And so they want to have a scapegoat for their issues and problems, and unfortunately, they don't look at the real people who are bringing them down, and they want to instead blame it on the other. But the other has always been a boogeyman that's been used by people in power. And my prayer and my goal, one of my goals in life, is to really show people on the other side of the aisle, in essence, or the other side of the argument, the humanity of us all. And I think music and art is a key way that we can accomplish that. Frankly. So
absolutely,
that's why we're doing what we do.
You need to bring it to Washington, D.C.
saying,
and maybe paint murals all over the Capitol building.
Absolutely. We're absolutely excited to continue to expand, and we soak up as many great ideas as possible and get as many different places as we can. And another topic that you had mentioned, this is like piggybacking on this beautiful conversation, is that yes, we have this journey and this plan, this layout of what's going to happen in the next years. And as we continue to grow, we have curriculums that are developing. I have an art therapy curriculum. And what we would like to do is we would like to do workshops with people that want to continue doing this work, so we continue to expand and more people understand the value and are facilitators, but with some training so they do it in a safe and trusting environment. And we've done some really incredible workshops with the field staff of Save the Children, for example, in Amman, Jordan, when we're working with the Syrian refugees. And whichever nonprofits in different countries, often grassroots, that we get to collaborate with, we get to like exchange and learn from one another, and often have these workshops so then the actual curriculums and the work can continue long after we leave. So there's a lot more sustainability. And so ideally that this would be an inspiration for more and more and more people. There's no shortage of space for people to embody their true power and that compassion and love, to be able to share the beauty of creativity, and love to hear as many stories as possible of people that are engaging these kind of activities all around the world, because we're a big family and it's only growing and expanding when we open our hearts to share and to learn from one another.
Absolutely. We're going to have to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen, but we'll have to bring you back. Absolutely bring you back. So could you please tell everybody, if you have a web presence, where it is, how to get in contact with you, and anything that's upcoming?
We certainly do.
So this is your time to brag. Well, go get them.
Great. All right. So our website is thegoodnesstour.org. You can also reach us through .com. So The Goodness Tour. Most of our stuff is up there. I think we're still working on getting the Oh My Goodness Tour Puerto Rico conference, or our conference in November.
It will be up tonight.
Be up tonight. Yeah. So, and then Ben can fill you in on all those good details on Oh My.
Yeah. So essentially, we have this really gigantic international art and music convention, and dancing as well. And anybody that's going to be in Puerto Rico from the 5th to the 12th of November, we're going to announce all of these beautiful, open, collaborative public events that we would love people to come. And we're going to be painting murals among several other activities. And these murals are going to be focusing on love for our neighbors, and also going to be focusing on honoring the beautiful culture of Puerto Rico post-Hurricane Maria and the people that passed away from the effects of the hurricane. And there's going to be a Hawaiian art therapist that is going to come with us and build a loom and invite people to bring pieces of fabric to weave the stories into a beautiful, like, collaborative blanket as a form of art therapy with indigenous techniques. And so we have so many different beautiful activities fusing the incredible art and culture of Puerto Rico together with international artists throughout the Americas, and exhibiting artwork by artists that exhibit in the Louvre in Paris. And we have the painter from Mexico that painted the largest mural in the entire world until 2016. We have a Bolivian painter that is just absolutely wonderfully expressing the power of Bolivian culture. We have artwork from Colombia, Venezuela, Argentina, Peru, Chile, Mexico, El Salvador, Nicaragua, United States, Spain, Brazil. And so we're having a gigantic intercultural dialogue to celebrate the power and the healing power of art and creativity. And so from the 5th of November to the 12th of November, we're going to be sharing on social media, press conferences, and whatever form that we can to spread this beautiful story of hope of this island, and remind all of us that we have the power to transform
adversity into opportunity. And what we might think is curses, we shift our perception, they become blessings. So thank you so much. And we have thegoodnesstour.org, and it's up right now.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Before we go away and straight, Thomas A. Kempis had this to say in 1420, at the day of judgment, we shall not be asked what we have read, but what we have done. Thank you all very much for listening. You can hear this interview all over again at amfm247.com Tuesday evening from 8 to 9 p.m. Also on https://PassionateWorldRadioNetwork.com, Facebook.com/PassionateWorldRadio, and PWRN LLC. It gets transcribed into video format, so you'll see it on YouTube.com, iHeartRadio, also on iTunes. Speak to your smart speaker and ask for AM/FM 247, and it will play it for you there. And thank you once again, everyone. And remember, please keep listening. Thank you.